What I want to talk about is some true
Mm,
history. We know we have not been told the truth in school, and that's one thing I like to
yes.
talk about on this show. And you
Hmm.
have been gifted with an opportunity you've had some amazing teachers in your life,
Yeah.
um, from indigenous backgrounds and such, where were able to be made aware of the truth of what's really happened here, who we really are, because there's been a disconnect that's happened, obviously. And we're trying to get back to that. I think we are. I think in order to go forward in a healthy way, we need to go back. And so I'm just wondering if you could just enlighten us on some of the teachings that you've learned about our true history and, where we're coming from before we talk about where we're going with solutions.
That's wonderful. Yes, connect us with our divine origins.
Yeah.
Before we continue the conversation, that's beautiful. So, well, first we need to understand that the history that we're taught is written by beings with an agenda. Cultures and governing forces, they have an agenda. So there's a very specific sense that we're being connected with. And once we are willing to visit this idea that it was those stories were intended to connect us with something less than our divine inheritance, then we can hear other creation stories. The next thing I would also like to say about stories is that our logical mind wants to go off of this story is the truth and this story is fabricated. Okay, it's actually not that simple because stories in their original form, in their original intent, if that's the right way to say it, is meant to connect us with something divine within ourselves, connect us with an origin point or a sense of something that is beyond that 4D field, that collective field. So the collective field is the consensus field. So, for example, if we were all, if humanity was originated out of the Garden of Eden, and we're all kicked out because we're sinners, and there's a consensus that that is the truth, now we all will walk around as if that's the truth, when really what that story like that does, it tells us that we're sinners, that we're not divine beings. And the other piece that comes right after that is that not only are you a sinner, you are now cursed to reap thistles and thorns from the earth. It's like, what an awful creation story to tell a young person, let alone a collective of humans. So and this might hit a few people in a certain way, if especially if you're brought up and you have a really strongly held beliefs in that direction. This isn't about dismissing the validity of a Christos consciousness or the divine consciousness. It's that stories were inserted into these energies that disconnect us. And if you look at the bigger model, it disconnects us directly from our interconnectedness with the all that is, and gives it to an establishment that is connected. So now, you have to go through a mediary. So stories are important to recognize in that kind of context. Not truth or not, just what is it opening you up to? What is it opening you to resonate with? Okay.
Okay.
So I've heard several different types of creation stories and destruction stories. One of my favorite creation stories, oh, I'll totally cry talking about it too,
It's
is
okay.
hold on. How do I talk about it? So, I had a healing session before before today, so I'm especially tender. um, so, all right, one of my favorite comes actually out of Africa, and it is the story of the providence of women and their role in preserving the integrity of this realm, preserving the beauty, the the divine expression of this realm. And how that story goes is that a woman, one, it was the time before the moon. There was a time when the moon was not with us, and our cycles went according to the solar cycles. And solar cycles still get acknowledged now, which is important. So I don't want to confuse those two cycles as one being better than the other. Um, and what a woman would do when it was time for her to, in her heart, to bring a being into this realm, is that she would dream. And she would dream with the intention of connecting with the soul that had the benevolent frequency that was a match to this reality. And as soon as she would meet that soul in the dream, they would come to an agreement and she would and give them a body in her womb space, pray with them and meditate with them and sing with them,
Oh my goodness.
and then bring them to the world. So
Yeah.
you can imagine that child, what kind of creation story that child is told about them. Your mother
Yeah.
found you in the cosmos. She found you in the stars. She found you. You see what I mean? And
Yes.
fell in love with you and brought you here. So those kinds of stories connect us with our sacredness.